and then you could do half here, and then half here, but your eyes kind of learn where to go, right? And we're gonna roast these at a pretty high temp, so it's pretty forgiving. We're gonna coat them in a little bit of oil and our spices. That water's really angry. But it's just water and vegetables, so...
It's on the high burner.
It is on the high burner, yes. But it has to be at a rolling boil. And Ida, you can feel free to mediate any disaster that might happen. I trust you more in the kitchen than I trust myself. And also, there is a fire extinguisher that arrived from Amazon. It's still on the porch, so you do have to get a box cutter and bust open that fire extinguisher.
If the kitchen is on fire, I am grabbing Sabrina, the Sabrina portrait, and my heels, and I'm running.
They saw the Sabrina portrait.
I know, I heard.
Is it easy for you to bring it? No, don't take it off the wall.
No.
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 I was gonna... We'll show it again, though. Do you want to show it now? You could just pan the camera.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So my father is a retired artist. Like, he retired, 2 years ago? And he started, this poor man, he just needed something to do with his time. And so he started, instead of painting like he used to do, he started doing photography. And I told him that I wanted a portrait of Sabrina, our cat. And oh my gosh, y'all see this? Hold on, look at that. Look at that! He did a portrait, he took a picture of Sabrina, put it on a canvas, framed it, and hung it above my mantle. It is the most extra piece of art, but it works so beautifully. I freaking love it. It's amazing.
Had you wanted something like that for a long time?
Yes. So, true story. I have wanted a painting, or a sketch, some type of artwork above the above our mantle for a long time, because it was just kind of bare. And we actually, when we were looking at houses, I had seen this beautiful it was just a painting above someone's dining room table of their cat, walking majestically on a beach. And I was like, fuck it, I want that. I want that in my house. And so, and that's been when did we buy this house? We bought this house 3 years ago?
3 years ago.
3 years ago?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so for about 3+ years, I've wanted a picture of our cat somewhere in our house.
And now we have it thanks to Father Salad.
Yes, Papa Salad. Ida, what about your wigs? What about my wigs? They're a little thirsty, right? A little bit.
No, I think the what about the wigs was, wouldn't you get them out of the fire?
Oh yeah. So yeah. So in order of things of importance in this house.
Are you just used to a read like that? You're like, what about my wigs? Yeah, they're a little thirsty.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a little thirsty. Sure, they can use a brush.
I mean, yeah. I'm just very defensive. No, yeah, the order of importance of things to save in a fire is Sabrina, the Sabrina portrait, my wigs, and then just work. And then the heels. Because I can't run on those heels.
And then somewhere in between me and Sabrina is your laptop for grad school.
Yeah, with all my papers on it.
Wanted to echo a question. Where is your knife from? Ida, where is your knife from? Where did we get this?
That was actually I gave that to you for your birthday.
You did?
Yeah.
And you gave me a real cutting board.
Yes.
Was it when you gave me a real cutting board?
Yes, it was
okay.
It was, let's see, because we started dating in February, and your birthday is in June, and it was that year.
Okay, and so what should you look for in a good knife?
Oh, it needs to be manageable. Because, okay, so here's the thing, y'all.
Oh,
Everyone needs a good chef's knife.
Clack, clack, clack.
Clack, 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 clack. So, here's the thing. Everyone needs a good chef's knife. There's a few different types of knives that you can have. This is called, I think it's called a santoku knife, or a santoku. It's the one with the divots right here. It's typically used in more Japanese-style kitchens. I don't particularly care for this because it's straight. See the bottom? How it's got a straight edge to it, and it's harder to anchor. I don't like that. This is my chef's knife from culinary school, and it's perfect. It's the perfect length, and it has a more rounded base, and you can see here on the cutting board how it just sort of like, it glides a little bit better because of the rounded, like the sort of slant that it has. This is another version of just a regular chef's knife, but I like this one too because it's not quite as long, and it's got a nice point on the end, as opposed to the regular chef's knife that does not have as sharp of a point. So this one. And I actually don't remember where I got this from, but I really enjoy it. This is the one that I got work for his birthday.
And then you got me a real cutting board. It's not this one because we've just been together at this point like literally over a decade.
Yeah.
And so it's not this one, but Ida at the time got me a real cutting board, and we weren't living together at the time. But you got me a real cutting board because I just had, and this is no shade if this is what you have, but maybe you were like me going to the Dollar Tree and you're like, I have a house, and a house should have something that's called a cutting board. So I bought the little plastic ones, right? And I was like, cool. I thought it was enough, but those tend to like slip and slide. This is nice and sturdy. So you don't want anything that's going to slide.
Yeah.
Like something that kind of can go with just motions. Now, obviously, if we try to move it, like it will move, but...
you need a good, wide, heavy wooden cutting board. Every kitchen needs one.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to season these little potatoes. And one thing that we do, what we stand in this house... Ida, do you want to tell them about parchment paper?
Oh, I love parchment paper.
So this is parchment baking paper.
Yeah, so this is something, I mean, you could use, you don't technically need parchment paper, but in culinary school, we always used it for all of our roasting stuff. I mean, you could literally just throw things on a sheet pan with some oil and it's fine. But I for some reason, I think that you get a more even, like, heat out of using parchment paper. On a sheet pan as opposed to just putting everything on there, and it's easier to clean, honestly. Like that's the real tea. Like that's real tea.
Nice. Okay, so I'm just gonna check the potatoes, and they're nice and soft. Let me see if let me make this determination because I already have the pot going. So let me see. They're still a little bit. They still take some resistance with the fork. So. This is not what we want. We want them to be a little bit softer, so I'm going to let them go a little bit longer. I actually let them go before my timer went off, so let's see. We'll do about 5 more minutes. So again, for those of you just joining, we are making some vegan breakfast nachos, and so we're working on our cheese sauce still. That's kind of like the main component. Our beans will be refried so that they're nice and like smooth and they can pour over our chips. We will not be making our own chips. We have our very own unsalted restaurant style chips. They're unsalted because
I'm salty.
Because we're already salty enough. No, actually, the beans already will have a good amount of salt. Everything else that I'm adding there is already seasoned to where it does have a good amount of salt. So we actually don't need I just made this call. Like, all of the other stuff on top of it can have salt, but this is from a brand called H-E-B. This is a big grocery chain here in Texas. Yeah, basically. But yeah, they also, at some point, they had Texas shaped chips.
Yep.
Texas shaped chips. That's my, I have like a very Hispanish Should I move to the background?
No, just keep going.
Okay.
We're just gonna vent it.
Okay.
But you also have a shit ton of water.
I know.
So
Well, it wasn't, but then we added a whole ass potato. The work salad lore. We got a knife showing some good lore / backstory. Basically, yeah. So we're going to go ahead and let me show y'all here what I'm going to do with these potatoes. So these are the ones that were, again, cubed. You give it feet, and then you go half, half, and half, and then they're all kind of roughly around the same. But at high temperature, you know, it's not going to matter too much. Here in this house lately, we've been big fans of like measuring oil, so I will be using a tablespoon of oil here. Probably a shy tablespoon. You don't need that much. Okay, so we'll put a little bit back in there. Okay, so it's like a shy tablespoon. You don't really need much. It's just to kind of coat everything, lubricate everything, you know. We're gonna add some salt to taste. That's about a teaspoon. And this is just like breakfast potatoes. Like if you have potatoes that you just want to cube up and throw in the oven at a pretty decent like temperature, we normally do 400 here. Some black pepper, a little bit of onion powder, and then a little bit of garlic powder. You can also add like peppers to this. You just want to be careful because the potatoes do take longer to cook. But if you want to do like a breakfast hash, so some onion powder, garlic powder, and then I do a little bit of paprika. So these are all just like typically some pretty good spices that all just kind of marry together well with other stuff that you're presenting as Tex-Mex, right? And then you can just go in with a fork. You can also use your hands, but the thing about using your hands is when you start using your hands in the kitchen, someone is like bound to just walk in at that moment. And then you have to explain like, oh, my hands are clean, I promise. And then they never believe you. Because that's happened to me before. Like I've been the person catching the person using their hands before. And I'm like, I don't believe you. I'm kidding. You can use your hands in your own kitchen as long as they're clean. But we only go for queer knives. Wanted to echo the question. We already saw that. Cooking stream. Ooh, hi, Pyre. How are you? Good to see you. Yes, it is our cooking stream. We are doing our cubed potatoes. So here's the lining of the parchment paper, just so y'all can see. And then we can just toss these here. And then here you could use your hands. You just want to like evenly distribute them. The potatoes are one of those things that, I mean, once you get used to making them, you can kind of set them and forget them for a little bit if you're still going to be in the kitchen doing several things, right? I set it at 400, usually around like the 20 to 30 minute mark. You kind of want to see how they're going. But that'll be the one thing we're using the oven for today. And then now that that's going, as you can see, I've kind of been using the same little bowl. I like doing this because it minimizes waste. So I use this bowl with water for the big chunks of potato for our cheese sauce. I used them for the little cubes just now for our roasted potatoes. And then now I still have use for it. So it's only had potato and spices. Another thing with vegan cooking is that you're not going to have issues of like cross-contamination. Like you would with animal proteins. Like, you know, if you've seen other like cooking shows or cooking competitions, there's always like, not always, but there could be drama with like, oh my goodness, we're being served these chives and they were just cut on the same board as that raw fish. We're going to die. You don't necessarily have too much of a concern. Obviously, if there's things like food allergies, you want to be mindful of things like that. So all I've done here, and these can kind of chill in the sink for a little bit, is I have put the potatoes and carrots in a strainer. So those are just going to chill, and the water is going to just go away. Some of the heat will dissipate because we will be blending this, and I just don't want it to have any problems. What might happen, Ida, if you pop quiz culinary school person? What might happen if I blend it and it's too hot? And let's say the blender's completely closed.
The steam will get trapped, and it will cause the top to come off. It'll
explode.
It will explode.
It will explode.
It will explode. So you do have to be careful.
Yeah.
When you add anything hot to a blender, it's best to do it in small batches.
Thanks. Oh my goodness, are you like in grad school or something? Everyone loves potato. We will be doing it several ways here. So we'll be doing it like roasted on top of nachos. We'll be doing it blended with some carrots to make a cheese sauce. Right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get to what I would consider like the fun part of anything that's breakfast related for vegans. This is hard tofu, which was actually my nickname in prison. Just kidding. No, but this is hard tofu. So this would normally be called firm tofu, like in other with other brands, right? So it'd be called firm tofu, extra firm. For this particular application, it's going to be served as breakfast, as a topping for nachos, and this will help us make probably one of the more versatile things like in vegan breakfast. So it's a tofu scramble, which is kind of like a staple, I guess, if you're vegan. And nowadays it's super easy though. Let me show you all some Just Egg. Y'all can buy this at some grocery stores. I say some because it could be like a health food store, like a Whole Foods, and you may or may not find it, but it actually is a really great product. It's Just Egg, and it's made from plants, as you can see there. So has no cholesterol. It's kind of like egg beaters. Like that's how Ida has described it to like reluctant, seemingly reluctant family. So I don't know if egg beaters makes that appealing to you all, but it does to me, at least. It makes it less like, what are you doing with that white blob? Hi, Placentamon. Ida Work, hello. How are you? Good to see you. We're talking about knives. We're doing some cookery. How was your night? How are you in Gay Things? Did y'all already have your days off? I know that you were talking about some much needed days off recently. I hope that y'all had that. Maybe y'all are still having that. Okay. So, we cut out our tofu, basically just, if it's in plastic, I trust that you all know how to get it out of plastic. But you can toss the water, there's not much use for it. And so we're going to be left with this blob, right? This nice block of tofu. And there's so many things that you could do with this. I know it looks like it looks like Play-Doh, kind of. It probably doesn't have the best reputation because it's just like a white blob in water, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give it a cut in half, and this is just more so to determine how much I'm going to use. Since it's just a topping on nachos with beans, that's already like pretty protein heavy, I'm actually just going to do like about 1/4 of it. So again, going back to that philosophy, right? I like to give things feet in the kitchen so that it stands. Thankfully, a block of tofu was born with feet. Just place it on your cutting board, cut it in half, and then cut that half in half. And so I'm not going to do like a giant portion of tofu scramble, but this will still be the general idea. Here it's going to be used more as a topping, but you can certainly use this same method to like load up on it. I'm just going to leave it in water, and then it can chill on your counter until you put it in like a secure container, as long as you remain like in the kitchen and you don't forget about it. So here's what I do with the tofu scramble. You can certainly attempt to squeeze out more water because you're going to like cook most of the water out of it, right? So this is why you also get extra firm for this, because you could just squeeze some of the water out, right? What I like to do then is just crumble it into a bowl like this. And then here's where we kind of build on flavor in a moment. And some of the things that typically make up like the actual tofu scramble. So there we go. I think that's good. How are you feeling about that quantity, Ida? You think that's enough for just a topping of nachos?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we're just going to rinse our hands because we had tofu on them. And let's see. So typically in a tofu scramble, and this is kind of like where it's really cool to work with, because this will brown and cook at about the same rate as most veggies that you could throw in it, as long as you dice it about the same size. So here, I mean, just to give you all an example, we just have this random zucchini like in our kitchen. So it was just left over from like stir fries and other things that we could use the zucchini for. So I'm probably just gonna do like about a quarter of it. If it was a smaller zucchini, that would be more convenient. I could put that inside. And so we're just gonna do a quarter of it. So I cut off the ends. Same thing, give it some feet. Yeah, we had a few days off. We both worked tonight. Oh no! Well, I'm glad you all had some time off though. And now I'm learning biology. Watching a cooking stream is certainly making me hungry. Well, wait until you see the final result, Pyrogaris. And we're only getting started. Just kidding. I know what I'm doing, right? Okay. So we gave it feet again. This is just my quarter of a zucchini, right? So cut that half in half. Queen Vegan with 69 biddies. Hello. How are you, Queen? Wait a minute, Queen. Are you vegan too? You need to tell me. I think it's time. It's 2022. I think it's time to come out of the pantry or wherever vegans come out of. Just kidding. I don't know. Thank you for the biddies though. The 69 biddies. Nice. Okay. So we cut this half in half, right? Still got feet. And then we could do these like quarter moons. And this is what I've seen will cook about like at the same rate as a tofu. I also don't want it to stand out too much like in the nachos, so I think this is a good size. You'll definitely see like, oh, there's vegetables in there. This is great for like leftover peppers, leftover onions. Like you can just add them to your tofu. And you'll see how it comes together. Like it really does look like a nice scramble of things. Oh, we've got YouTube going with ads. That's where my Animal Crossing music was playing. So that's going right into the bowl with the tofu, okay? Again, if you have a pepper, if you have onions, if you have all kinds of other things, right? You can just toss them in here. So we're just gonna toss our zucchini and tofu. And Ida, you brought up a really interesting point when you were describing what I was making to your parents. You said, it's kind of like migas.
Yes.
And so migas are a Tex-Mex thing. Migas are basically like egg and tortilla. It's a very like homey, rustic dish, right? So it's typically just like tortillas and like corn tortillas fried. And so it's almost like chips, right? And then they add egg to it and like sauce. Yes. And so it's a very popular like breakfast dish. You can kind of consider this to be like a vegan deconstructed miga. But here in this bowl, I'm just adding familiar spices. On the Discord, I can add like more precise recipes of what I'm actually doing here. But again, very familiar spices. Like I'm kind of using the same thing as the potatoes that are in the oven right now. So we're using some garlic powder, onion powder, pepper, salt, and some paprika. There is some difference here with a few things that I will use, and I'll explain why. Let me just go to my pantry, and I think I'm mostly done with most of these, but I'm gonna keep them handy just for the cheese, which will be blended here shortly. Okay, so we're gonna keep those handy there. And let me go to the pantry here, and we will get some distinct things that we will use for our tofu scramble. So this is not a very practical ingredient unless you're vegan and you have access to it, but this is, for any vegans watching, this needs no introduction. This is nutritional yeast, which is affectionately referred to as nooch in some cases. Ah, vegan crack. See, there we go. Queen Vegan, living up to the name, knows all about the nooch. So I'm going to measure, but we're going to do about 2 tablespoons. But nutritional yeast has a nice savory flavor. Here, this container of it will describe itself as a cheesy, savory seasoning without the dairy. Although I don't know if I would describe it that way. How would you describe nooch, Ida?
I am, I am not the best person to ask that question because I am one of the few vegans.
1 tablespoon is fine.
I am one of the few vegans who actually doesn't care for nutritional yeast as much.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It's kind of got like a cheesy flavor, but it's not super cheesy. It's just more. It's got a savory flavor.
And there's probably very like I think on a more serious level, unless you want stuff to like seriously just taste like nutritional yeast, there's probably very limited but very practical applications on where you can actually use it.
Yes.
I think vegans are just like add it on everything.
Well, my cousin and his new wife are, you know this, they're cross-country hikers.
Yeah.
Like, they literally hiked from California to Canada. Like, these people are fucking crazy. But they take the nutritional yeast.
They're very outdoorsy vegans. Like,
yeah,
hiking, very granola.
They take nutritional yeast and just mix it with water. And, like, that's, like, their, like, morning drink.
Because there actually is like nutritional benefit to it. Like it actually does have like B12s and things like that. Like there actually is. Can y'all see that? I'm showing food labels. Oh my god, it is a vegan stream. We're showing food labels. Okay. Wander put umami fish flakes? Kind of. Is it like more of a savory?
I don't know. I don't get a whole lot of fish from it. Unless you're talking about like fish food. Because, like, I could get behind that. Like, that's actually a really apt description of it in terms of texture. Like, the fish...
It looks like fish flakes. Yeah, like what you feed aquarium fish, kind of.
Yeah, that's actually kind of clever.
They do, yeah. There you go. They said, I mean, they look like fish flakes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually really clever. But, yeah, it's just kind of got, like, a... I don't know. It's a savory... Let me say this. If you have not had nutritional yeast, go to a store, buy some on Amazon, and then taste it. Then you'll know what I mean.
Or if you go to like a vegan restaurant and they have some, you could just be like, "Hey, I'm very..." And here's how you can get in with them. You could be like, "Hey, partner, buddy, whatever." Or you could just say hi, but you could just say, "I've heard of Nooch as a vegan thing. Can I try some?" And they might bring you like a teaspoon. I mean, I'm not saying that they will, but that's exactly how you could be like, "You got Nooch?" And they might be like, "Oh, this person kind of knows what they're doing." Or they know exactly what they're talking about. But here's the nutritional yeast, and I actually measured it out. I added a 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric. And so turmeric is an Indian spice. You're not going to really taste a 1/4 teaspoon, but you are going to see it. It does give it kind of an eggy look. So right now we do have like some, we have like the tofu, which is firm, but it's still soft. It could be cooked down. We have our like leftover zucchini. You could throw in any leftover vegetable. As long as it'll cook along, like here it's kind of like the same size as the tofu. So you certainly want to cook with equal parts, right? If you throw something like a spinach, I would do that at the very end because it'll like overcook, right? So I normally finish with like a spinach if I'm using spinach, if that's your leftover. Kale also. Let's see here. And also, Wander, one interesting thing about this, I've not tried it, but since you mentioned that they look like fish flakes, if you ever see like vegans at like a pool party, maybe try throwing these in the pool and maybe they'll all like emerge and like eat like the fish and just like, they'll just like suck in the fish flakes. I've not tried it myself, but I feel like if I saw that occur, then I would, like if I saw nutritional yeast in the pool, I would come out and eat it like that. Look at that handsome stallion. Hi, NLG. How are you? Good to see you, friend. We're doing our first ever cooking stream. We're making, as you can see down there, breakfast nachos. And I'm actually pointing to the right section of the screen. Right down here. Okay. So all I'm gonna do is like medium heat. This I will not leave and like kind of set and forget. But we're gonna use some, oh, we're out of cooking spray. There was a little bit in there, it's fine. But we used our leftover cooking spray on this pan, and we're just gonna toss the tofu in there. This I will not like leave. This I won't leave like completely alone because this is like more actively cooking. Like it's actually on a hot pan, right? I'll try that next time to find out who the vegans are at a pool party. I'm telling you, throw it